Mentioned to Mikuláš that it's funny that we are meeting in the church of the music industry.
That's a good point, actually.
The people hanging on the wall would like to kill you.
No, on the other hand, they're good performers, and performers never had a problem making money. It's the people who are the record middlemen who are losing out on the current shift, and after all, they're not needed. So I don't think the people here would cry blood over getting 50% of the sales rather than the 5% they get from the record industry. The middlemen are being cut out. In this case, banks. The entire banking industry is about to collapse in 10 to 15 years. So, just like the copyright industry is doing. Bitcoin is to banking what email is to the postal service. It allows you to keep your money on your computer, send it to anybody without any government being able to stop it midterm, seize your money, even see your money. So you can think of it as cash, but cash you can trade with on a distance without anybody being able to stop you. Banks are taking up to 5% off of every transaction made with a credit card. And with Bitcoin, it's a matter of a fraction of a cent. Every new technology takes about 10 years. You had streaming video in 1995, but we got YouTube in 2005. We had file sharing in 1989, but Napster hit in 1999. In general, it takes about 10 years for a new technology to go from proof of concept to something that people can actually use. I mean, I had my first company. I found my first company at age 16. I went out to small and medium-sized businesses and helped them with the information flow. Then I put up this web page in January 1st, 2006, announcing the foundation of the first pirate party. And that's sort of when I went from only doing things to doing things and talking about them. And it turned out that there was a huge built-up demand for this in pretty much the whole world, for a political movement to remove the old gatekeepers that were keeping back the digitization of society stream. So again, it was the monopolization, the lockup of culture, the keeping of the gatekeepers at the expense of everybody else, and fighting the future, essentially. The third thing was the Data Retention Directive in the European Union, which turns our mobile phones from being practical devices for us to governmental tracking devices that we can also use to make phone calls. And if that had been suggested 10 years ago, people would have balked in horror. As in, would all of us carry tracking devices? Are you kidding me? In December of 2005, it became reality. On the morning of December 14, 2005. On December 16, I registered the domain Pirate Party in Sweden. So those were the three major issues, as in culture, knowledge, and privacy. And that's still the three major pillars of the Pirate Party. It was in the afternoon of May 31st, 2006 that I got a call from Peter Sunde, who was then the spokesperson for the Pirate Bay. And he basically told me that the Pirate Bay was down because it had been raided. This was 5 months into the party's existence, almost 6 months. 6 months short of a day. And what happened was that I activated the entire party, as in this was our moment. This was our chance to associate with a known icon and bet the party's existence on that we were right about this. And so we did. We activated. Our press releases lead the copyright industries by 12 hours. We had the entire interpretation prerogative in media about what had just happened. And there were rallies in the next days. And that's when we had our major breakthrough in media in Sweden after the Pirate Bay raid. I mean, my face was on every newscast every hour for basically a week. There are still a lot of evil stuff coming down the pipe, as in censorship. People should be quiet, as big industries should be able to confiscate things that disturb their businesses, that are plainly in violation of human rights. But these businesses don't care because they don't exist to safeguard human rights. So with all this stuff coming down, the fact that we exist and we get votes every time something bad like that comes down the pipe is starting to turn the pendulum back and at least provide some sort of resistance. And this resistance is growing, and what I'm seeing primarily is that politicians don't have the confidence that they once had in cracking down on culture, on knowledge, on privacy. Because when they do, we get support. We get support, they lose votes. When the other politicians lose votes, when they do the wrong thing, that means they won't do the wrong thing. It's not enough to stand there and say you're doing the wrong thing. They also need to lose votes. That's frankly the only way that changes society. I am a bit perhaps cynical about that, but I found that's the way it works. And yes, we are watchmen in the European Parliament. Well, again, being a bit cynical, they're only doing their job. They're an industry lobby. They're asking for better conditions for their industry. That's what they should be doing. I place the default squarely on the politicians, whose job it is to see the bigger picture and see, okay, this special interest, is that a public interest really? And in the case of the copyright industry, the answer is, hell no, they are a special interest. But the politicians have not been doing their job. They have been failing abysmally. They think they know what the internet is. There is no human being as dangerous as being a decision maker who think they know a subject but are totally clueless about it. The internet is so big you can't explain it to somebody who's not living the connected lifestyle. It's changed how we even cooperate as a species. People above about 40 years of age, when they have a problem, they browse through their address book mentally and pick one or two people that'll help them with this problem. Contact those people and those people alone and expect a reply. People below 40, 35 years of age broadcast this problem to their entire circle of friends, and they will get a reply. They don't know from whom, they don't know from where, they don't know when, but they know that people will help them out because people help each other. That's who we are. There's this quote from Abraham Lincoln that the problem with quotes on the internet is that you can never tell if they're genuine. We need to learn at a much earlier age to be critical of sources. If anything, it's a leap ahead because we're holding mainstream media to the same standards as everybody else. We're starting to do that. That means that we are acquiring sources, we're acquiring an answer to how did you come to this conclusion. We're starting to not just read the story, but go behind the story. It's going to be a golden age for good reporters because all the data is going to be out there. It's not going to be a matter of having unique sources anymore. It's going to be a matter of being the best storyteller. I mean, we became the largest party for people under 30. We just swept the floor with the most coveted demographic, and the established parties didn't know where, they didn't even see us coming. So they learned from that, unfortunately, and in the next 18 months, before the next national elections, they sent instructions to their officers, to their activists, to their members, that whenever we make a provocation, and expect them to do so, expect them to provoke these issues, don't respond to the provocations, don't talk about their issues, never mention them by name. And it worked. We didn't have the strength to break through that. And come on, like, it's not that we weren't provocative. We were giving bandwidth to Pirate Bay. We were saying that we're going to host the Pirate Bay in Parliament using parliamentary immunity. What you going to do now, silly people? You're not getting 1 inch of power from the establishment without taking it by force. They're not giving you anything for free. And we've changed our strategies. Most of all, I think we learned from the German Piratenpartei. I mean, we're a remix culture, right? So we remix policy making as well. We copy from one another, shamelessly and proudly, and we remix it for local conditions and see, does this work here, does this work here, does this work here? And all of a sudden somebody comes up with a success recipe, like Berlin. I think they've broadened their scope. I'm open with saying that we were based on 3 pillars: culture, knowledge, and privacy, and transparency, some skin. And what they did was to elaborate on that and see that, no, it's more than this. We have a gut feeling for what the connected lifestyle is. What is the connected lifestyle? So they actually sat down thinking and came up with a 51-page election program. So we're currently in a position where we're saying that, okay, we're going through the same kind of exercise. What is the pirate ideology? The only regulation on the internet would be net neutrality. When you go to a website, you don't know how large the company behind it is. It could be a guy in a garage, it could be a Disney Corporation. And that's what scares Disney Corporation, because you don't see how large they are. Once the record industry is gone, that takes 95% of the cut. Artists are making their money through concerts, where they get 50% of the cut. File sharing has been the greatest transfer of wealth from useless middlemen to creative artists in the history of recorded music. I don't need a stupid suit to get music from my favorite rock band to me. They can send it to me directly. And that scares the hell out of the record labels, because they're not needed anymore. I'm not going to lie to you and say that everybody's a winner, because everybody isn't. But we are in a very large shift. What you could make money on yesterday, you can't make money on tomorrow, but you can make money on new things. Households are spending as much money now on culture as when Napster arrived. It's a fairly flat line. But the record label's slice of this pie is falling. It's fallen from half to now about a third. And that's excellent, because that means artists are getting much more money now than they did when the record labels were setting the tone. I'm not an artist, and I'm not an artist agent, so I'm not going to pretend I know how to make money. What I do know is that there are lots and lots of artists who make money and say they make money because of piracy. No, not because of piracy, because of sharing. Because of sharing outside of the monopolies. You can't do it the old way anymore, because that model is dead and it's not coming back. Well, I think it's fantastic that some of Marx's ideas can actually come through after like more than a century. Like, for the first time in history, you can have a model that is based on from everybody according to his or her interest, resource, time and capability, and the result goes in unlimited quantity and quality to everybody who wants it. That has not been possible before. And on the other side of the scale, I'm also a die-hard free market supporter, and the reason I came to the pirate ideology from the start was that I'm pissed off at these monopolies that distort the free market and diminish our fundamental human rights through a regulatory capture. So you can easily see both sides of it. The copyright is a monopoly. It is a government-defended private monopoly.
Do you identify yourself with communism in any way?
No, I do not. There are some people who are talking these terms that do, but I do not. I am staunchly on the side of entrepreneurialism and free market. This is politics, right? This is policy making, and you create your ideal world, what you believe would be right. I believe that the copyright and patent monopolies are a remnant from the guild era, where you had elders in certain trades that could dictate prices and dictate how people would be able to go about their business. When free enterprise came about in about 1850 in most of Europe, the patent monopoly and the copyright monopoly somehow survived the entry into free market and free enterprise. And I think it's time to shed those monopolies. But the road from here to there is long and quite filled with vested interests. So every step on the way is a step in the right direction. We're not losing our privacy. We're choosing what to expose and what not to expose. There's this illusion for many politicians that just because I'm writing what I had for dinner and people haven't usually said what they had for dinner, they get the idea that they have the right to go in and take the rest of my private life. And this is as ridiculous as if you're tipping somebody, they have the right to take the rest of your wallet. That's not how things work. When you were wiretapping somebody on the phone, you would wiretap a conversation. If you're wiretapping the internet today, you're wiretapping their very mind as you're listening into what they're searching for. You're looking at what articles they read, how long, and in what order. Wiretapping the net is the closest we've come to thought crimes so far. And that's why privacy is more paramount than ever. There's a wiretapping law that says that you are always wiretapped, period. And the technical stuff is that whenever you make a phone call or open a net connection that crosses the country's borders, the FRA may wiretap it.
Yeah.
This law is absolutely horrible, and it's being appealed to the European Court of Human Rights, and rightly so, because it's nowhere near the standard of human rights that I think a Western government should adhere to. We did arrange huge protests in Sweden. The debate of the FRA law was the moment in Sweden when the Pirate Party climbed from being a file-sharing party to a human rights party. We need to become very much more aware of information hygiene, as in who are we giving what information and what can they potentially do with it. It's said that credit card executives know about 1 year in advance if you're going to have a divorce, before you know it yourself. And what does Google know about you? What does Facebook know about you? If you're diagnosed with a very bad disease of some kind, Google will know about this before your family does, because you'll go to Google and see, what is this thing I just got? Government work for the citizens. People who are working for somebody is not allowed to keep information from them about their job. So logically it follows that governments need to go from ruling to governing a country. And that's a huge shift in philosophy. Basically, we here in Europe are still monarchies. We're only electing our kings. We're sort of seeing that here are these people who are supposed to rule the country. That's not the case. They're doing a job, and we as citizens who are giving them that job have a right to know what they're doing. Yes, absolutely. Actually, we're still giving WikiLeaks server space in Sweden. We are very close to journalism, investigative journalism in this case, that we don't think that elected leaders should get away with lying to their constituents, to their citizens. WikiLeaks was a pioneer in this field, as in allowing people to leak very high profile, very frankly government damaging data confidentially. And now that WikiLeaks have plowed the way, I foresee that there will be a lot of initiatives in this field that are of similar nature. Again, there's a danger in centralization that makes you vulnerable to attacks. That is, how can 3 companies, Visa, MasterCard and PayPal, call each other and decide that we are going to strike this organization off the face of the planet? That's a huge democratic problem that we have no defense against. That some people can just point a finger of death and kill an organization. After we had our success in the European elections, which then did not convert into success in the national elections in 2010 in Sweden, a lot of people, especially in the copyright industry, were sort of going, oh yeah, they were just a flash in the pan, we've got nothing more to worry about. But the Berlin success showed that not only is it a Swedish-only phenomenon, it's worldwide, or at least it's in several places. And it's not a flash in the pan, it's just that it's starting to take root.
Do you feel like a father, like a proud father at this moment?
I wouldn't say father, but I'm sort of happy that they found my ideas worth following. As in, yeah, I'm publishing, here's a couple of ideas, and if that inspires others, then I'm happy about that. So it's not very easy to place that in a left to right field, but rather we are really bringing a new perspective.